MTN SME Hub. Link to growth, link to success, link to the ultimate resource for business advice and insights.
Welcome back to the Big Small Business Show. In studio with us today, we've got Nellie Lester. She's the Managing Director of WS & Company. And we are talking about leadership, our own leadership as entrepreneurs. And we started off by talking about our own personal mastery, and now we're talking about creating a personal vision. So Nellie, let's practicalize it as we said in the last insert, where we are trying to take an entrepreneur who, from a personal, not a business vision, from a personal vision from where they are to where they want to be. So how would I practically go about this?
I think a practical way of going about this, Allon, is starting to look at yourself from your own personal context, yeah? So you have to think about yourself in a familial context. We all come from families.
Right.
You'd have to look about yourself in a social context. We're part of a community or part of an area. And then you'll have to look at yourself in terms of what you choose to do. And this could be by way of your vocation. Where do you choose to practice your vocation? And vocation normally leads to thinking about financial issues, you know, so what's your standing with regards to financial matters? Thinking about financial matters, you might then say, how do I handle money? What is my relationship with money, for example? Further on to that, you'd want to think about yourself in a mental state, because again, your mental position, you know, determines how you approach issues, how you respond, how you react. There could be opportunities that requires you to be in a certain mental frame of thinking, and therefore the mental state of being is quite important as an individual. And then you could also think of yourself physically, because we are who we are. This body is what helps us do what we do. And unless we are aware and take care of the body in the physical sense, you know, you might not be able to do all the things that you vision and you visualize that you want to do. So I think physically we have to be there. And then lastly, you also have to think of yourself in a spiritual sense. And by spiritual, I don't mean religion. I think that is your spiritual way of assessing, you know, how you connect to the bigger universe, the bigger world out there that it might be. So whichever way you choose to practice it is just a dimension that as an individual you need to be aware of, because that also helps in centering oneself and self-governance. So when we talk about personal mastery, it's really the 360 degree around your areas of life. And some of that could be almost blind to us, because oftentimes we heighten one over the other. And the idea of self-mastery is actually visiting all those 7 areas of life and trying to get a sense of how am I doing in my physical form? How am I doing in my spiritual form? How am I doing in my mental state? How am I doing in relation to my family or in relation to the society that I live in? And it's that constant visitation is what we would regard as being you know, kind of guiding oneself. You've got a guiding light that helps you in governing life and therefore governing self. And that for me, or for us at WS & Co, is quite a critical way, even if you're going into the business, into the market space.
Okay, so that you've set your current situation, but now we're talking about vision. So then would I talk about how I see myself physically in 5 years, how I see myself spiritually in 5 years? Is that what I would do?
That is what you do as an individual, because I think that would also help you prioritize, you know, and it's not like you're always at the same level in all these 7 areas of life. There are some seasons where family is important, and you'd have to be aware, self-aware, to say, in this season of my life, this is the amount of time I want to spend with family. There could be other seasons where finances are important, and you would say, in this season, I'm focusing on heightening my financial area in order to be able to do X, Y, and Z. So if there is an awareness, you can always return. But if there's no awareness, then it could be money, no family, no social, no physical. And I think practical ways is just saying, in this season, I'm focusing on this. I'm aware of it. I need to return to this area of my life when X, Y, and Z changes.
And do you find that that people, when they start doing this, start to realize that just there's a big lack or there's an imbalance, you know, that I might, to your point earlier, that I'm all about now about making money, and I've left my family completely out of my thoughts. And then there's a rebalancing once people are self-aware.
Yes, I think the self-awareness is where you gain that clarity. Clarity to know that I have been doing this, for this amount of time because of the goal that I've set up for myself. If somebody doesn't have that, they could be, kind of lost in one phase and completely having a blind spot in one area of their life. So it's no surprise, that sometimes people say, oh, so-and-so was doing so well, but now he's ill, and the business is doing X, Y, and Z. It's like, why did so-and-so get to this state? Maybe there was a physical issue that they kept ignoring. And it takes some shock or some trauma to bring you back. And when we talk about self-mastery is to say, don't let those traumas hit you unprepared, or govern yourself against such kind of traumas that might come upon you and therefore throw your entire plan into disarray.
We've got 2 minutes left in the segment. You mentioned something earlier which I was teased about, which was the relationship with money, your relationship with money. Can you spend the next 2 minutes just fleshing that out? What does that mean, and how can we have a better relationship with money?
The way that I look at it, Allon, is that I will give, for example, money without a vision, for example, somebody has referred to as being debauchery. Yeah. So if you are making money, what are you making money for? What do you want to do with the money? Having a vision of what you want to do with the money then does help you get a sense of, why am I doing this and what is the gain at the end? If it's just for amassing piles of money, then you might find yourself, being quite frivolous, in the things that you use the money for. And so you need to ask yourself, what do I need the money for? And what purpose would I like to put the money to? It has to have a use in some way. And sometimes we say, I want to be rich, or I want to be a millionaire. What happens once you're a millionaire? What do you do next? You get more millions, So I think it has to link to your vision. But that vision, the more you clarify it for yourself, the more you get a sense of why you are generating income and what you want to do with the income. So I think for anybody who is wanting to be aware of their relationship with money, determine what you spend the current money that you have on, and if those are leading you towards your vision. And if there is clarity in that sense, then you'd say that you are self-aware and in the way that you relate with money.
That's a great explanation. On that note, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Nellie Lester. Stay tuned.
MTN SME Hub, link to business success.